Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out. The second installment in the reboot of Final Fantasy VII needed to be not only as good as Final Fantasy VII Remake, but needed to expand on the game's mechanics and deepen the story arcs of the characters we have loved for decades. It's the Dove here to let you know if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is worth full price. If you want to save your time, no need to forward to the end. I fully recommend this game and think full price is fair. There is so much content in this game you will definitely get your money's worth. Of course, there are those who just plumb hate RPGs, but let's hope they wouldn't search the depths of YouTube for my opinion on one of the most well-known RPG series of all time. First off, I was a fan of the original Final Fantasy VII. It was the first RPG I really got to sink my teeth into on PlayStation 1. My biggest complaint at the time was the graphics. Not that they were bad, I loved the first 3 Final Fantasies that were playable in the US. I just remember thinking how awkward the characters looked. It was just a rude awakening when you went from walking around a world to a fight. The graphics were just drastically different, almost 2 completely different games. Back to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Graphically, this game is not going for photorealism. It is nothing along the lines of Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake, or God of War. But the style and colors and depth of all their backgrounds is something that is absolutely stunning. Again, they don't go for photorealistic backgrounds that Assassin's Creed has, but the style that they go for, they just nail it. The character models are really detailed. They spent a lot of time on each main character, and you can tell. I really enjoy the art style that they found, some kind of cross between anime, cartoon, and reality, but I really think it works so well for Final Fantasy VII. You can play this game in both graphical mode and performance mode. I personally enjoyed my experience in performance mode. It really ran at 60 frames per second and was one of the smoothest experiences I have had with a game on the PS5. The voice acting, just like in Final Fantasy VII Remake, did another phenomenal job. The voice acting roster is so deep, and they really have a passion for their characters. One of my favorite parts about this game is just how deep the roster is, and that Rebirth went out and got all the same actors from the first game, including 2 of my favorites, John DiMaggio, who voices Bender Rodriguez,
Midgar 7th Infantry,
and Yuri Lowenthal, who has voiced Spider-Man, along with so many video game characters.
Who, me?
The sound effects and audio during combat are also amazing. They really accentuate all the action that's going on screen and all the craziness that's happening with the spells casting simultaneously, with the steel clashing and the bullets ringing. It just adds another layer to the game.
Here goes.
And the music hits that nostalgic note while still giving a lot of variety on the original scores. There are just some songs in video games that will always be catchy, like the Mario theme. The Final Fantasy VII music is iconic, and I could listen to it all day. The gameplay is excellent. Most remakes just change a few buttons here or there, or update the user interface and pause menus. But the Final Fantasy VII Reboot took that turn-based system from the original and melded it with a modern third-person action game. You have the slowdown when you want to select a spell, ability, or use an item, and you can bind those actions in different combos if you'd rather not slow things down at all. And there is also the classic mode for you old-school gamers who don't want the fancy new-age hubbub. Besides the actual fighting and transversing, there is so much to do in this game. So the gameplay is constantly being reinvented with new minigames, card games, side quests. But if you just want to stick to the main story, you can easily do that and leave all those checkpoints and data towers alone. I appreciate the game doesn't force too much of the side stuff, but once in a while there is a forced tutorial or a level where you need to play a lot of Queen's Blood or Fort Condor. But again, you don't need to invest too much time into these games. There is one chapter where you have to pretty much focus on the card game Queen's Blood, but it's very painless, very short, and you can restart every game that you play until you win it, so it's not too taxing. I could easily spend a whole video talking about the mini games in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but the bread and butter of the game is just so much fun. The action sequences are what I love. There is just so much going on during the battle. The stunning visual effects, the amazing sound effects, the character animations. There's just so much carnage going on, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth gets every single one of those right. While this isn't technically an open world game, during certain chapters you can freely move between maps, and each map/continent is quite large. I only mention that because there are some points in the game where it seems very linear. This is just another example of the old school ways being melded with new school thought. Open world games are way more popular, and Final Fantasy VII, I think, recognizes that. While the original definitely had some open world ideas about traveling to maps and where you want to go next, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth really goes deeper with that by opening up the map a little wider than the original. Whether you like open world games or a more linear style game, I think you'll enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth regardless. It's the best of both worlds and doesn't bog down too hard on one or the other. And last, I want to talk about immersion. That's one of the most important aspects of a game to me. Whether or not I can really escape inside that universe that these developers have created. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is amazing at immersing players with not only a detailed world and well thought out story, but a sea of fun things to do and a great cast of characters. The world is gigantic, and the atmosphere is just intoxicating. There is an assortment of both biomes and enemies to keep you entertained and immersed for hours and hours. Now, I just want to say I fully recommend this game. I think it's an incredible game, and if you like RPGs, this is for you. But it is not perfect. There are a few areas here and there that could use a little polishing up. First off, my biggest issue with this game, and some may disagree, is the fact that there was no real carryover from the first remake. I understand starting everyone off with a fresh character and playthrough is welcoming to newcomers. However, those of us who were grinding for hours to make our characters top level and scoured the depths of Midgar to find certain materia and items that are no longer with us, it just really kind of doesn't sit too well with me. The games did offer a little perk for those who have played the previous game or any of the demos, but it just wasn't enough. We all know that when they re-release this in a decade with all 3 parts completed, that you'll have some option to carry over that stuff. So why not just make that an option now for those of us who really have put our time into this game and love Final Fantasy VII? The rest of my issues are relatively minor. I think this is a good game, and while I'm a little annoyed at the lack of carryover, I had a lot of fun playing this. Now, one of the last things I really love about this game is the story. The original story is just an epic. A lot of crazy stuff is happening, and I'm not even going to pretend to understand it all. But the reboot is taking those original ideas and changing a lot of little things here and there, along with a couple big things, including the fates of some characters. I know some people might not like the changes, but this gives players a reason to play through. We don't know what's going to happen. And for a reboot, I think that's the best thing you can do. So yes, anyone who's slightly interested or even watched this, I would recommend this game 100% at full price. So get this game, go get a chocobo, and explore the beautiful land of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Folks, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like more content like this. For even more content, go to twohatsandabeard.com or check out our YouTube page. Until next time, this is the Dove.